Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Macon-Bibb County Pre-Commission Meeting. We're acting as a committee of the whole tonight. Today is Tuesday, May the 3rd, and the time is now 5:01. We do welcome everyone here tonight. We do have several items on the agenda, and we will have a need to go into executive session tonight as well. And then our regular meeting starts at 6 o'clock tonight, and we'll try to stay on time as much as possible. We're going to go ahead and begin the meeting with item 3A. This is a resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission appointing Mayor Lester Miller to the Central Georgia Development Authority. That is a membership that the mayor typically serves on. I appointed Ms. Lucas over there earlier, so I know if she can stay on there, I can stay on there. So we asked that I be appointed to that motion, and that board is certainly active, and Mr. Weston Stroud will be rolling off that board, so that'll make room for myself. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve that particular appointment. Got a motion by Commissioner Howell over here. Can I get a second? Commissioner Wilder seconds that. I knew I'd come this side, I can get it accepted over here. So we do have a motion and second. Mayor Pro Tem Clark, do you have
Was there a resume in our
resume?
packet?
Yeah. I'll be happy to provide you the
Yeah, a background check. Did you meet the requirements of the board that we changed up last couple weeks ago?
Can somebody print those election results back for this young man? I'll be happy to provide that. Any other questions from someone other than the peanut gallery? Okay. Hearing those questions, we do have a motion and second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda tonight. Item B is a resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission reappointing Gene Haygood, I think I said that right, to the Macon-Bibb County Board of Tax Assessors. Jean has previously served on that board, been appointed the last time. The Board of Tax Assessors asked for her reappointment, and this is my recommendation. So we get a motion to approve. Motion by Commissioner Bronson, second by Commissioner Wynn. Any discussions regarding that item? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Item C is a resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission reappointing Dwight Jones to the Macon-Bibb County Industrial Authority for all of the lawful purposes. That's my motion. Can I get a second? Second by Commissioner Wynn. Likewise, Dwight Jones serves as a representative of the Industrial Authority. He's done a good job there. He's also asked to be reappointed through the Water Authority as well. He serves on that board. And we have a motion and second. If there's no further questions on that, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Item 4A is the LMIG, I believe. A resolution to authorize the mayor to execute an independent contractor agreement with Reeves Construction Company in an amount of $2,264,569 for deep patch asphalt resurfacing projects to be paid from LMIG GDOT grant funds roadwork line item in 2018 SPLOST funds. Just a little brief synopsis on this. You have a list in front of you of items. These were previously either by this commission or the previous commission voted on for approval. The process was completed and sent out to bid. I will tell you that because of the asphalt prices, which have increased substantially from about $223,000 per mile to $345,000 per mile, because of that increase, there are some roads that have not been added to this list that was previously voted on. They remain in a holding pattern on that. But this is only voting on the items that's previously passed a commission that have been sent out for bid, and this is the bid that come back through Reeves Construction. So this is the amount, and if the attorney, you need to add anything more to that?
I do not, sir, unless anyone has any questions.
Okay, we have a question from Commissioner Paul Bronson.
Good.
In regards to the list that was sent out, where are we at with the entryway to Central City Park? Clarington Park, my apologies.
I'm not aware of a status on that. I will get in touch with Mr. Brooks and get that information for you all.
Okay, I would like to have, if that's possible, to have that added on. I mean, for the entryway into that park needs to be done.
Yeah, I think
it's been looking like it looks for the last few years now, so I would love to try to get that added onto the list if possible, please.
Just for clarification, there's a $20 million investment that's going to be coming right there on that corner of the entrance to Carolyn Creighton Park, right next to the Daybreak, where you'll have a lot of trucks coming in and out of there. You also have the railroad track and a potential landscaping and road work to be done there. So We'll be bringing a project to you back in the very near future. We're looking for some funding options for that. So although we can go ahead and put that on a road list, if you may, I do know that that's going to have to wait until that project's being completed. They're supposed to break ground on that this month, and they expect the project to last anywhere from 12 to 18 months.
Okay,
So,
sounds good.
I think there's be some preliminary plans that you'll see that I think you'll be impressed with for that whole area from MLK all the way through the Carolyn Creighton Park.
Yes,
We're
sir.
looking at several funding options there, so we'll certainly make sure you're included in that, and if you want to be a sponsor of that when it comes up, we'll be happy to have you.
And with this being done in phases, when the second portion of this takes place, if there is a second portion, are we able to add on? I know I have some areas in East Macon and South Macon that I would like to get added on to the projects, future projects.
Yeah, I think they'll bring back another LMIG too. This is actually something that you voted on last year or the year before. Some of these carry over. So this has already been approved by commission. This is just the funding portion that came back through the bid. So certainly at the time that Dr. Moffitt contacts you at the next LMIG about any streets you want for consideration there to go through our office with engineering there, that'll be the time to add those. Is that correct, Dr. Moffitt? Thank you. We have another question over here, Commissioner Howell.
Yes, ma'am. Just the ordinance that we had in our packet, page 36 and 37 had a list. Can you tell me what that list was?
Would it be the gray and white list?
No, that was Exhibit A. There was another list of roads, but we're not approving those roads, correct?
List of roads was in the bid package in that case, and those roads were the originally approved roads. This, the Exhibit A was the final list that was applied for and granted and then put to bid. Because of the cost of asphalt, as Mayor Miller stated, has increased as all things right now. We have had to cut some roads, but those roads were that listing was going to be the original list from the LMIG bid set.
Okay, so the ones that were highlighted in red were taken off because of price constraints?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I think there were 10 roads, and I believe that they tried to maintain equity across all the 9 districts
That is
to make
correct.
the numbers work, because I think we believe we have a 30% match on that LMIG with the state. And we're still trying to work out something to try to get another way to pave those roads there. If not, they'll be the first in line for the next project, unless it's changed. Any other questions, Commissioner Hall?
I just wanted to say for anybody that's looking that I know that this is a small amount of roads for all of Bibb County, and I think that we may need to look at some alternative ways of funding this, because there's a lot of roads that need attention, and we're well aware of that. I had a lot of questions about this that I had answered before this meeting, but I was really concerned about that other. I just couldn't wrap my head around what that list was. But honestly, I'm glad that list wasn't on there. So, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Howell. Commissioner Wilder?
Yes, I just wanted to be able to say the 4 roads, 3 plus the one that was like an additional. I rode all those roads Sunday. They were not on. They were, to the best of my remembrance, and I can look back, they were not on the other list that we looked at. So evidently, this was the other commissioners before. And I agree, each of these roads do need some attention, but we got lots of roads getting to those roads that are in dire straits, even worse. And I have had more conversations also since my first concerns that they are being put on the roads like Columbus Road, Knoxville Road, Lower Thomaston Road, and Rogers Road are being put on the wish list. But I want to echo in what Commissioner Howell said about we do need to come up with some way or another to look into funding, because I know the roads I'm discussing are long roads. They're going to be expensive, but they are in dire straits. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilder, for bringing that to our attention. I think everyone in Bibb County recognizes that we've got a challenge with the roads for quite a while. We've had some roads that need to be repaired. We are limited on resources as far as the roads is concerned, and maybe something we can look at on spots and otherwise. For example, that Columbus Road that Mr. Wilder is referring to, I drive that road very often. It's very bumpy, very broken up, like many roads that we have that have been there for a while and not taken care of or paved recently. That particular road, if you paved it at $330,000 per mile, would probably eat up $2.6 million, which is almost the entire budget here in this situation, which means all the other districts would get 0, and that would take a lot to get something like that done. So we must look at other avenues to do that. Commissioner Wilder, appreciate you adding that to our attention in your emails to ask our engineers as well as our traffic folks to do some studies to find out how much that would cost, so we can try to prioritize that. I think we all also recognize that something may need to be changed, whether it's policy or some other funds to try to pay for this, to determine what it is. My understanding of the current process is that roads were tested for how much is traveled, the conditions they're in, by a company, a third-party company that in turn makes recommendations on the quality of those roads, together with input from commissioners, this commission and the previous commission, on roads that they would like to see included. They take those roads and they put them on a list, and then they take the amount of money we have, and then they try to award a requisite amount of contracts in each district for commissioners. Commissioner Lucas?
Thank you. I share the concerns that have been raised, but one major thing that I think, and I'm going to ask that if it's possible for us to include this as an item where we look very, very carefully at it, and that is our list of those road projects that we have that are ongoing, that have already been approved. The funding was supposed to have been there, but we find that there's some changes. And on one particular road, Jeffersonville Road, it just makes you want to holler. The song makes you want to holler, throw up both my hands and my feet. Because how many years have we dealt with Jeffersonville Road? And we're now into a new administration, and I thought we were rolling on it, but then you drive through there and it looks like it's just at a standstill. So I think we owe it to ourselves to take a look at those projects, Jeffersonville Road, and let's just see what we need to do to get it done. Because frankly, I'm tired of trying to explain to people why a road takes 40 years to do. I really am tired of that. I know the state representative, Representative Beverly, is tired of it. I know Senator Lucas is tired of it. And we've all pushed for this, and many of you have as well. But I think it's time for us to do something. And I'm going to ask everyone who's sitting around here who is involved in this thing, let's get this done. And Jeffersonville Road is incomplete, we find out. There is a section of it that's not going to be done. And so I just think we do a disservice to folks when we start and stop. We start and stop. I'm all for Bass Road. I'm all for all the other projects. The record is clear. I voted to approve the projects and the funding and all of that. But I feel really, really bad when work is ongoing on that, and then we end up with going through Jeffersonville Road and Pine Hill as well. That's been approved for 4 or 5 years. When we can't seem to get that done, that just sends a terrible, terrible message to one section of town, and I know that's not what we want to do. Over in Bellevue, Tillman, you've got some stuff over there too that was approved years ago that hadn't been completed. So I'm just going to ask if we could revisit this, look at where we are. I know we've done an update, but I think we need to do a deep dive into what we have not done, what our citizens expect, have already expected that we would have been finished with, and let's get it done. That's my request.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucas. I will say that we do have an update on Jeffersonville Road. There is a deadline on that, which I'm sure they're going to go over with penalties. Macon-Bibb County has done everything we're supposed to do in that regard, so we're certainly not the hold up. Each of the projects has been approved that we have secured funding for, is waiting on someone else to do the work, and certainly we're at their mercy. We're doing some of the right-of-way things. We reapportioned some money from the Stars Church Road to make your project at Jeffersonville get the completion it needs, so the money's been allocated. It's just a matter of doing the work. So we're not the ones doing the work, and we had the money to pay for the work that was contracted in the beginning, not the additional things that maybe it needs out there. So I'll provide you another update. If that's not the latest one that you know of, it may provide you some additional information on a completion date on that one. So thank you for your comments. Commissioner Jones?
Yes, sir. On roads, the process is painfully slow. It seems slower to me than it ought to be, because we're talking about 2022 roads, and to my knowledge, I don't think we have as good a coordination between, whether it's roads or guardrails, between county engineer's office and purchasing that we ought to have. Sometimes they're pointing the finger at each other saying, no, it's him, no, it's him. Bottom line is, here we are May the 3rd, and none of them have started. So I hope they'll get the lead out, so to speak, and let's get going and start paving these roads. We've got a lot of bad roads all over the county, and they need attention. So my concern is it's not coming out of county engineering as fast as it ought to be.
I think, Commissioner Jones, let's just be clear. These roads that you voted on last time could not be done because you're just now voting on the contract that was just selected. So it has gone through the process. You're about a year lag behind. So those roads that you previously voted on are being constructed. This is a normal course of business. We are definitely open up to suggestions. This is not my process. This is the process that you've had for your entire time on this commission. So if there are other alternatives, a better way to do this, we are not the only party in this
I understand
situation.
that, and it's not pointing a finger at you,
Yeah,
Mayor.
I didn't take it like that. I just want to make sure that we understand if there's a solution that you have to make this more efficient, we're certainly open to that. But we have to provide the information to GDOT. They have to get back to us, and sometimes that creates a delay.
Right.
And then we have to go through our procurement process, which has been sped up, and that's certainly not the holdup in this case here. I will speak to the engineer about that, but I can tell you they're working hard each and every day to try to get these things accomplished with the many things they have to do with right-of-ways and everything else. So I'm certainly open to suggestions on a better way to do this. I think we do need to have a conversation on how to be fair and equitable across the whole county and get as many roads as we can. It may involve use of general fund money. It also may involve looking at that in the next splice in a substantial manner, just to try to get us even on that. But that's something we'll talk about at a later date. Commissioner Watkins?
Thank you, sir. I was curious. How does the sum, the $2.3 million, why is that the number?
That was the price that was proposed or bid from Reeves Construction. It was originally a higher amount. However, engineering, our user department, did use some statutory authority to go back and negotiate to try to get roads that they deemed essential to have done for this project added to it. And so the new bid price from Reeves Construction was the $2,264,000.
And questions about that, but if I'm reading right, they're prepared to, I guess, pave about 10 to 12 miles worth of road?
Roughly, yes, sir.
Okay. And the sources of funds for us in terms of paying this is, if I'm understanding, a grant and SPLOST dollars?
Yes, sir. The LMIG grant is 70% funded by the state, and we have a 30% local match that will come out of the 2018 SPLOST dollars.
So what are the maximums per the rules?
I do not know the maximums per the rules.
So would it be safe to assume that we're nowhere near it?
I wouldn't want to venture a guess there.
In terms of, you mentioned earlier that originally there was a higher amount, so we have more in the budget allotment for this, and that would be matched by the state, I guess, almost.
The removal of certain roads from the original list was what was required to bring it within what was budgeted for this allotment.
Okay.
I think Dr. Moffitt may have more
No, sir. We get the allotment from the state, and we have to match that. So the amount that we're given from the state, we maximize that in the match.
So the state was only going to give us so much.
Correct.
So of the 2 million, 70% of that is state dollars, I guess?
Right.
Okay, and the rest came from the SPLOST line. And do you know off the top, I can pull it up, but how much was the SPLOST line?
That will be, that will be, for my calculations, slightly over 600,000.
100 is what we're spending out of SPLOST, and I assume that's exactly the amount we budgeted for this year on the timeline. I asked these questions because I think we all want more roads.
And we do want more roads, and we try to maximize that impact. So you are correct, but the process we have is use LMIG to do that, and the way we use LMIG is to match it with the SPLOST dollars. So I can look and see what was allocated, but we kind of estimate that, so it's probably about right in there, but I can get that exact
That was pretty
number
much
for
the
you.
goal, so it'd be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is how we choose to do roads. As the mayor said, we need to look at a different process in the future.
Well, I'm curious on, I guess, like the reverse, like the full universe of roads. Like we're doing 10 based on, I guess, whatever qualifications and testing that was done. How many miles of road would qualify for, I guess, repaving based off?
I've heard the rule of thumb that a mile is about $1 million. And so what we've done is we've tried to look at the county as a whole and try to maximize that we have some shorter distances that we could really knock out and try to take it and spread it around the county.
I guess what I was asking, based on our study of our roads, and it's a question I guess you may be able to get back to me with, based on our study of our roads, what percentage or miles or whatever we measure it in are considered roads that are in need of repair?
I can get that for you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. White. I think that's a very good question. What I've asked Dr. Moffitt recently was if we could wave a magic wand and get all the roads that absolutely need to be repaired, what would that cost be? So we had a goal to set to see what would get us at that number and find out if there's a way to fund that. And of course, we couldn't do them all 1 year. And of course, there's more than 10 roads. If you look on there, there's a lot more than that. But the miles are correct that what you have. But I don't know. This company did the study prior to many people on here's arrival. So I'm not sure if they ever calculated a total amount all across Macon-Bibb County. What they did do is prioritize them based on the need and then look at that need and determine the amount of money that we could spend based on the LMIG without 30%. Certainly we're looking for matches, but it would be nice to have a total amount if we did a certain percentage of road to know how much money we needed to come up with to find to meet that threshold. But I think it's vitally important for the next SPLOST to have that number because I think many taxpayers would agree to renew the SPLOST if they knew that these roads were going to be repaired and replaced. Any other questions, Commissioner Watkins?
Not at this time. Like I say, I would love some more information on the issue. And so I guess it's safe to assume that these 10, 12 miles or 26 roads listed are the ones that are all like the worst scoring roads within our community. These would be the bottom of the barrel, oldest, or
they wouldn't necessarily be that because you're trying to have equity across all the districts, but it would be within your district safe to assume that it meets that category as well as the amount of money you have to spend.
So just as a point of education, this is more like equal. Like equity would be serving the ones that are the worst no matter where they are. We've equally dispersed them throughout each of the districts, just as a. No, sorry.
Yeah, we're not getting philosophical here, but I understand your point. But what they've tried to do is to make sure that every district has some amount of road paving that's done, as opposed to picking the very worst ones and paving there. Then you would probably have 8 districts that got 0 for many years. So I think that's been the attempt. If this commission feels like we need to do something separately, I'm certainly open to it because it appears that the method it's done in the past has not been keeping up with the needs. Any other questions? Here are no questions. Can we get a motion to approve? We've got a motion by Commissioner Jones. We have a second? Second by Commissioner Wynn. Any further questions? Was that Commissioner Wynn or is that Commissioner Bronson I heard over there? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Is that a nay? Okay. I got you. Thank you, Commissioner Lucas. We are going to move on to the next item. That item is item B, which is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Macon-Bibb County Economic Opportunity Council, granting a community development block grant, coronavirus grant, in the amount of $104,632 for the provision of hotel motel stays for displaced individuals and families. We have Ms. Wanzina Jackson here today to just answer any questions if needed, but at this time I entertain a motion to approve. A motion by Mayor Pro Tem Clark. Can we get a second? Second by Commissioner Lucas. Any questions? Commissioner Watkins.
Yeah, I was just a follow up from earlier. I was curious, is this a renewal of the rooms that we do every year, or is this creating additional rooms? I know it's been additional things happening throughout the community, so I was curious.
So with regards to these particular funds, these are actually through coronavirus funds, and these are for hotel motel. So for those individuals that are they're in the process of actually rehousing, that this would be that interim period.
Mm-hmm. So last year, the EOC provided that service to, I guess, approximately how many rooms or nights, or I'm not sure how it's quantified.
We actually have a representative from Macon-Bibb EOC that can give just a little bit of information with regards to the hotel motel, Carlton
Okay.
Williams, which actually represents that agency.
Yeah, and I guess in general, I'm curious on what we served, how many we served last year, and how many we think these new funds will provide.
Honest, everyone, I'm not quite sure what we served last year. I was not prepared for that question. I do know that we've depleted all the funds from last year. We still have 18 households that are in hotels that came from 3165 Bloomfield. So we have those. We're working with Magnolia Court clients, and we have probably about 20 families on a waiting list waiting for us to get more funding. So we will deplete those funds. And they are needed. Yes,
So
sir.
you have 20 that are already.
That we've been dealing with 22 households since when, Keith? They're going into their 6 weeks in a hotel. We're housing as many as we can, but it's moving very slow.
And I think to ask Commissioner Watkins' question, I think because of the need, the recent need that we have on the projects that we've had at Magnolia Court, as well as the Bloomfield property and others, we discussed this with the state about getting some additional funds that they have from the state for this particular purpose, because we've had an increased need based on the people that were unfortunately had to leave their homes or their residence based on the fact that the landlords were not taking care of their responsibilities. So these are new needs. This is additional funding, not your typical funding, for this very purpose. And I think right now we've got about 22 families there that we've been able to take care of. The other ones went to Brookdale and other places.
Yeah, that is correct, Mayor.
And that's what I was trying to make sure it wasn't your a regular budget or supplanting your regular budget, ending you back, but you will be able to add more families to it. That's what I was asking.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Watkins. Any additional questions, Commissioner Wynn?
Sir, thank you, Mr. Mayor. How long is the length of stay on an average for these folks?
We can only assist up to 2 months.
2 months now. Brookdale, if I'm not mistaken, can go 3 months? 3 months,
Brookdale.
right? So the people that are still on the waiting list, where are they right now?
They're between the Salvation Army and Brookdale, waiting to be housed. They've located housing. Normally when they do that, we like to put them in a hotel.
Okay, and these are continuing to be different groups of people, different
That is
families and
correct.
such. Do you have people coming back that have been served before?
No, ma'am.
Will you serve them if they come
We
back?
can, but we have an in-house rule. They have to wait about 12 months before we're able to do
Okay,
that again.
all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Wynn. Commissioner Watkins?
I guess the delay is coming from, if I'm understanding the situation right, we condemned a few apartment complexes in the area. They're housed with you now in an interim, but the delay is trying to find them comparable long-term housing. Like,
That's correct. That's correct.
talk a little bit as to what you're experiencing in that space, if you don't mind.
Well, we have two things going on. As we all know, we are having a housing crisis here in Macon. A lot of the landlords where we place people over the years, the rent would be reasonable, like $550, $600, within the range of someone that's earning $8, $9 an hour. But Now they've jacked the rental rate up almost $250 per month, and they're doing it on the people that also have leases already or are in the middle of a lease. So we're experiencing a real big problem with finding housing.
I hear like we as a commission haven't passed any rent controls or anything like that to slow anything like that down. So it's
Good. It would help.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Got a question for Commissioner Bronson?
Thank you for the information, by the way. Just out of curiosity, and it may sound like a silly question. So you guys are able to use those funds to purchase quote unquote houses and have those houses set as in need of, right? So if you have a family that comes in and they are outside that window or need that assistance, we can't just purchase those houses and have those houses standby, quote unquote, standby houses for events like this?
I don't think so. That would be an entirely different process in itself. Like, for instance, right now we have those 22 households in a hotel.
Right.
That would be 22 homes that you would have to purchase.
Well, those would be 22 homes that you would have under your possession to operate as such.
Or you would have. I have enough.
Oh, yeah. Touche. I'll take that.
Thank you, Mr. Bronson.
We don't have the staff. Trust me.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. We do have a motion and second. If there's no further questions, ask for a motion to, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Going to move on to item C, which is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an independent contractor agreement with Macon Area Habitat for Humanity in an amount of $453,533 to be paid from the Home Investment Partnership Program funds of construction of 3 new detached single-family residential homes. Can I get a motion to approve? Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Clark. Can we get a second? Second by Commissioner Bronson. Is that right? Okay. We have a motion and a second. We have a question by Commissioner Wynn.
Yeah, the last one on Carmen Avenue it says two different street addresses, 560 and 564. Are those single houses? Or is that an attached dwelling, or what is that? Because it says 3 houses on here.
Ms. Jackson, if you know, or if Ivy, if you know, if you don't mind answering that question.
We also have, excuse me, Ivy Hall, who is the executive director for Habitat. But normally when we have addresses such as that those 2 addresses are actually being combined into one lot.
So it is one house?
Yes, it's one house.
It's not a duplex or something like that?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
Those houses on the average looks like with this budgeted amount of money is going to be about $155,000 per house to build.
Yes,
And
when
I
you
saw-
take everything into consideration.
That's correct.
And where are they going to be built? I mean, I got the address, but
Linmore Estates.
that's all in Linmore Estates.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Also keep in mind, Commissioner Wynn, that you get all this money back. This money gets paid back over a period of
Right.
time. That's correct?
And
Yes.
and the Habitat usually requires the people that are going to move in there to do some sweat equity or that kind of thing. Is that true?
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
still
They
true?
actually do. I can actually have Ms. Hall come and talk a little bit about their program.
Thank you so much. Yes, we ask all of our families to contribute 300 hours of sweat equity. So they participate in first-time home buyer courses, financial planning classes. They also work on the construction site for their home and the homes of their neighbors. So it's a chance for them to get to know their community and also be a part of the construction of their home as it's going.
Okay, so you have our families been selected for these addresses already?
Yes.
Okay.
We actually have families approved for all of the homes that we'll build over the next year and are continuing to take applications and have a waiting list.
And as I understand it, this money will come back to us or back to you to be reinvested and do some more. Somehow.
Correct. It comes back to Macon-Bibb County.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wynn. Mayor Pro Tem Clark?
I'd just like to voice my appreciation to both this item and the last one. Thank you all very, very much. And I'd like to be added as a sponsor to this and the last item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Commissioner Howell?
Just a quick question. I'm curious, what's the square footage, heated square footage on these houses?
They are 1,174 square feet. About 1,200 square feet. They're 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom homes.
I'm especially curious to see what square foot prices are costing right now, so thank you.
Yes.
Fluctuates daily.
Lunch.
Thank you, Mr. Howell. Commissioner Bronson?
I think you've already addressed this portion of it. Hey, I think you've already addressed this portion of it. But in regards to, and this kind of partners up, I guess, with the Brookdale Warming Center, Resource Center, my apologies. Personnel that are coming through the door, are they required, quote unquote, to utilize, say for instance, you have someone that comes in with a trade of plumbing. Is that person asked or required to say, hey, we need your assistance with doing plumbing at these particular houses to kind of, I guess in this, and I politically term right here, earn your keep in a sense?
We don't we do not ask for specific skill sets because we have to meet all of the code requirements and all of the inspection processes. And so we have all licensed and contracted out services for our plumbing, electrical, and HVAC.
I was just thinking in a sense of to help get them back on their feet and so forth. That can be an opportunity for them to get back into their trade and get back certified by basically working in a sense in the development of that home and so forth. Just a thought.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Bronson. Commissioner Wynn?
Just one more question. I think the Habitat program is a great program, and we thank you for that. I just wondered, do you follow up with the people that get houses through Habitat to make sure the houses are being taken care of so they don't become run down like some of the things that are around there?
So we do keep up with all of our homeowners because we service their mortgages. So it is a home ownership program. So we service it for the full 20-year life of the mortgage. So most of our homeowners are coming into our office on a monthly basis to drop off their mortgage payments. So we're able to keep up with them. But as with any other mortgage company, I always use the example that we hope that our homeowners, because of the sweat equity process and because of the work that they have done to become homeowners, because they're all low-income families, that they will take pride in their home. But I also say that my mortgage company doesn't tell me to mow my grass, and so we try to have the same respect for our homeowners. But we are working in their neighborhood. So we have a chance to see their homes, offer additional services. The other benefit of us servicing their mortgage is that we know what's happening a lot of times in their families. So if they're falling into hard times, we can get them the assistance that they need. So in turn, they have the resources that they need to maintain their home.
Thank you. Some of these are nice little homes. I saw the pictures or sketches or whatever of the homes that are going to be built. I just want to make sure they stay in good repair, since we're going to the trouble and they're going to the trouble of having some sweat equity in the house too. So
yes, and that's our hope, is that sweat equity encourages them to take the long-term pride in that.
Carol here tonight that will answer any questions you have. If not, we'll have our attorneys come forward. Commissioner Wynn?
See this on here because during Cherry Blossom, I was downtown and going through some of the alleys there. And it wasn't exactly at night, but I can imagine those would be dark areas. I couldn't quite tell by looking at these pictures that were provided to us, but I guess it's all the little, I know, I saw that, but I still couldn't quite figure them out. How many alleys or how many roads are you talking about?
It's essentially all the 20-foot alleys.
Okay.
So essentially from Fatty's Pizza on 2nd Street all the way down to Douglas Theater.
Okay.
Then the one that runs along, go ahead.
Any alleys between Cherry and Poplar?
The one that runs behind Burt Maxwell's property, as well as it also affects the SunTrust parking lot, that one as well.
Okay, and I noticed a parking lot there is.
And then the one that runs parallel to both Poplar as well as Plum. So behind Fall Line and behind Emerson Ballroom.
I think this is a good project.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wynn. Any other questions? We do have a motion and second. I'm sorry, Commissioner Lucas?
And the funding is coming out. I have not had a chance to read this a second time.
I can answer that for you, Commissioner.
Funding,
the bid board has allocated $136,000 for this project. So it's a mere just getting county approval, but the funding is completely covered.
coming out of the additional monies that the downtown.
Right.
Yes,
folks
from the Business
pay.
Improvement District, yes.
So the bid district imposed a 5 mil, is that correct, tax on themselves. They pay 5 additional mills for certain amenities downtown. and this is part of that process that they'll be paying for that in advance. So, thank you.
The electricity.
That's correct. Okay, we do have a motion and second. If there's no further questions, I'll call for a vote. You want to be a sponsor, Commissioner Bronson? Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Commissioners, we've got several other items on the agenda. I do want to finish in time, and I know there's a need to go into executive session. If we may, if you do not mind, if we could finish this meeting and then start an executive session at the near of our second meeting, would that be okay with commissioners, or does anyone disagree with that? We won't take any action at our regular meeting until we have executive session, but I would like to go ahead and finish this if we can, and then after we have our prayer and our pledge, we'll go into executive session before we start the meeting, if that's okay with everyone. Okay. We always do those in the next meeting. We don't do public comments at this meeting. Okay. We'll do that. We're going to go ahead and move through accordingly then. We've got item E, which is a resolution of Macon-Bibb County Commission to authorize the mayor to execute a purchase and sale agreement with GHC Mechanical Services in an amount of $154,728.72 for the purchase and installation of a replacement HVAC system for Macon-Bibb County Government Center, which is really City Hall, to be paid from Capital Improvement Fund Facilities Management. Building and building improvements. As my motion, can I get a second? Second by somebody. I don't know who said it. We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Hearing no questions, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Item 5A is a ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to authorize a budget transfer from Informational Technology Department's budget for various line items. That's my motion. Can I get a second? Got a second by Commissioner Wynn. Any questions? Hearing no questions, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. The final two items are two new ordinances and changes that we have, and our attorney will be going over each one of these items. And item B is a ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to amend the Macon-Bibb County Code of Ordinances to remove redundant provisions of the code in Chapter 6 to distinguish between the offense of litter and more detrimental violation of the code caused by nuisance, debris, and other matter described herein as real property to provide to in-rem remedies for nuisance occurring on real property. I do know that Commissioners Wilder and Commissioner Howell are going to be co-sponsors of this. Is anyone else? Mr. Bronson, are you on there? Okay. Everyone else, I see 6, 7 of them. Commissioner Watkins or Tillman withhold. Okay. So if you'll just don't mind before we do a motion and second on this one, give us a brief synopsis of what we're doing, the purpose of this. And I know we have some projects that are waiting on this to be passed so you can move forward through the court process. So I'll turn it over to you now, Mr. Howard.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, Commissioners, and thank y'all for your sponsorship and support of this measure. Basically, our code currently allows for in-rem actions against dilapidated properties and with buildings and structures. This will allow in-rem actions against land that meets certain conditions as well. In-rem action means it's an action against the property, not a person. So any interested party in accordance with the law will receive notice of this action against a nuisance property, and that.
I just can't hear you. I want to make sure people at home can hear you because I'm having a hard time hearing you up here myself.
So this action is in-rem action is against a property, not against a person. So all interested parties, that be owners, occupants, lien holders, and lenders, and other interested parties in accordance with the law, and will be sent notice of this action against a nuisance property that meets criteria, and that criteria being at least 20 cubic yards of offending material, trash, and debris on the property, or at least 3,000 pounds of debris or material on that land property. And the action will then be able to move forward against a property, and if the court finds that that property is indeed a nuisance with those conditions thereon, the owner will be given a reasonable amount of time to remove that trash and debris. If the owner fails to do so, then Macon-Bibb County can enter the land or its agent and remove all of those offending materials, those nuisance materials from that nuisance property, and we can place a lien on the property so that we can receive compensation for the county's actions to eliminate those nuisance conditions.
Okay, thank you for that information. I think we've been doing this for nuisance per se by some of the houses right now, but we haven't really necessarily had the permission or authority to start removing items off of property, like the ones that we saw pictures. That the main reason to do these?
Yes, Mayor. We're to do that and to make sure that the county can receive a compensation for the removal of said items from land.
Thank you. We have a question from Commissioner Bronson.
A question for you. So, in regards to time frame, how long can debris be on grounds before it is reported, notified, and fined?
So, when code enforcement detects that these nuisance conditions exist or these a complaint is made to code enforcement, then code enforcement will go out, inspect the property, determine if it meets the criteria for this action, these minimum criteria I laid out before, and they will send out, and then they'll work with my office, the county attorney's office, to send notice out to all the interested parties. Once that notice is sent out, the court will set a hearing date no earlier than 15 days from when those notices are sent out, and then it'll be up to the discretion of the court to determine at that hearing what a reasonable amount of time is to remove the debris before Macon-Bibb County is allowed to enter to remove the debris.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Bronson. Commissioner Watkins.
And I kind of kept up, but we can already, like if there are illegal dump tires or a vehicle on a land, don't we do that? Don't we move those now?
We do. Those are typically done via in personam action. This would be an in rem action against a property. We run into some issues when we try to do in personam actions where one person receives notice, and when it's a property issue like this, you want to have the owner notified, the occupant notified, interested parties, so that everybody who has a hold on this property sufficient to be an interested party receives notice, can be there at court at the same time in case there's finger pointing between an occupant and an owner, so to speak. And if nobody shows up to court and doesn't send notice to court that they would need a continuance of the hearing date, in an in personam action, the court notes that there's a failure to appear, may issue a bench warrant, but by and large, a lot of times the court's compelled to continue the action to a further date, 30 days down the line, and leave those nuisance conditions on that property until the person served is actually brought to court or shows for their court date.
So this allows action to happen much swifter?
At a much more efficient yet reasonable timeline.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watkins. Commissioner Wynn?
Well, you answered some of the questions, but I just don't want to see it keep dragging on and on and on. There's not like a 90-day thing that would, when you issue the lien on a property. And I know there's going to be finger pointing at occupants and the owners, because the owners will say the occupants made the trash and stuff like that. But there's not a 90-day, 30 days, each 30 days you look at it and move to the next step.
So
I mean, that's our problem, with stuff just keeps staying there.
This is an action against the property, so
Right.
regardless of who points the fingers amongst the interested party, if the property is not cleaned within a reasonable amount of time as set forth by the judge after the county makes its argument and the interested parties make their argument as to what a reasonable time is, if the property is still not cleaned at that time, then Macon-Bibb County can step in to remove the debris.
And put a lien on the property.
Correct.
So it's really more or so against the owner of the property at that point. The lien is, because he owns the property. I mean, the tenant doesn't have to worry about that.
That is a conclusion that can be reasonably drawn, but in the end, that lien is attached to the property.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Wynn. It's certainly a more efficient process. I think it would be handled more expeditiously. This is something that would typically go through municipal court, and you have court there every week. Is that correct?
That is correct, and yes, this is one of the goals of this legislation is to make a more efficient process.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Watkins, you had a follow-up?
I was under the impression, like when I texted County Director Moffitt, County Manager Moffitt, like a picture of some tires in a lot, that a couple of hours or minutes, because he's really efficient with it, that there was a truck on the way to go get those tires. It's supposed to be a court case that happens in between those two actions, or am I?
Yeah, I think it depends kind of case, and we're getting borderline to the legal, and I'm listening to my attorney in the ear. Those cases that we have, we can do that. What we're trying to do is make sure that we can do that and place a lien on the property so we can get paid for doing the work on the property and not just go out there to do it on an illegal dump situation. Most of the times, those situations where you call there, someone has illegally dumped it on somebody's property, and we may go out there for a health and public safety issue to remove that property, but we have no right to a lien on that property. This will allow us not only to go through the court process, but to place a lien on that property so we can actually get, in fact, a lien on the property if ever sold, to pay back, or to have an action against the person who owns the property. Is that correct?
Well,
That
yes,
is correct.
That's 1,000% correct. But to address you, that is the problem. By us going to clean it, now we have nothing to cite them on.
Oh, we don't like take pictures and send that to court?
But there's nothing for them to do afterwards. We've cleaned it. So that's been part of the problem.
Commissioner Wynn?
No, wait a minute. You take a picture of it before you clean it. This is what he's asking, Mr. Commissioner Watkins.
But if they go to court to clean it, we've already cleaned it.
But before you clean it, you take a picture.
Yes, we do. But this code change will help enforce that, because that's been part of the problem, is that, as you say, we go out and we clean it, and then what's the citation for? The property's been cleaned.
So do we have enough code enforcement staff to handle all of this? Because there's a lot out there.
We are growing that department.
Okay.
So-
Because I have people call me, my neighbor's yard is a mess with abandoned cars and trash and sofas, and that's what this should address, I hope.
Well, on May the 17th, we'll address that, and you'll see our budget proposal, and you'll have the answer to that question on code
On
enforcement.
code enforcement?
Any other questions? Mr. Watkins, did you have another question?
I hate to keep following up, but just like if we take the picture, we send that to court, couldn't we say that we did $1,000 worth of work, and that's what we're here about today, even though it's done, or is that not legal, or am I?
We would need to obtain this court order to go onto this property and be compensated for. The law requires us to get a court order to do this cleanup and then place a lien for the cost.
And that's how the law works.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watkins. All right, at this time, there's no further questions. I will entertain a motion for approval. Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Clark, second by Commissioner Wilder, or vice versa. Any other questions? Yes, sir, Commissioner Watkins.
Sometimes I forget that we're the lawmakers, and the law seems a little silly to me and maybe some others here. Is this a local law, state law, or is it something that we have the power to amend?
This is a local ordinance.
Okay.
That's being.
No, I guess in reference to
No,
the
the
process of applying liens to properties before or after. Is that a local thing or above us?
This is preempted by state.
Okay. Thank you.
It's a local ordinance, but the state law is the lien law that we're relying on.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. We do have a motion and seconds. No further questions. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Thank you. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. We have an ordinance to Macon-Bibb County Commission to amend Chapter 15 and 20 of the Macon-Bibb County Code of Ordinances to expressly allow the mayor to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Bibb County Sheriff's Office to coordinate the identification and removal of abandoned vehicles. Does someone be a co-sponsor of that? Okay. Notate everyone there. Can I get a motion to approve? Commissioner Bronson, get a second? Second by Commissioner Wynn. I think this is self-explanatory in here, but we do have the attorney there. This allows us for those abandoned cars in neighborhoods, et cetera, but also those on streets. Also, we've had a problem in outside businesses, left overnight in alleys, so you're not able to get the trash can picked up for the next day or two, in particular downtown as well. And as we know, the sheriff is severely understaffed, and they're the ones that have been responsible for doing this. This will allow code enforcement to coordinate this with the sheriff and be responsible for calling the record service and having the authority to have those cars removed that are illegally parked, and also give us some authority for these abandoned vehicles that are left in houses or at houses or on the streets for a period of time. So this is an effort to help alleviate some of the duties that are overworked sheriff's department understaffed, and actually shift some of those responsibilities to code enforcement where certainly capable of doing this work. So, Commissioner Tillman?
You know, I just think some of this stuff we're over stepping on. I mean, only thing this does, it just gets folks to call and worry the hell out of us. The sheriff controls and runs the streets of illegal parked cars. I don't know why this is necessary, as opposed to just us signing a letter saying what we want to enforce and ask him and them to step up. I don't like this ordinance. I don't, because it just makes folks think we just did something wrong to them. And if I can't walk and tell a tow truck driver to illegally remove that car, don't remove that car, you know, but yeah, I'm giving authority to what? To who? Who are we giving authority to? We don't control the sheriff department. I mean, yeah, we got a code enforcement, but we're now allowing code enforcement to overstep their boundaries in doing what the sheriff is supposed to be doing. I don't understand why we're doing that. You know,
Well,
it's as if we want to have more control and authority. Why? To do what?
To get the job done, I think this is an intergovernmental agreement, so this is with the permission of the sheriff and the blessing of the sheriff.
We control the sheriff's budget. We are all supposedly working for the same team here. And, you know, I can see if we just want to bring attention to this, to let people know that we're serious about what they're doing and the commission can speak up. I think that's what it does. But we're going to start having people call us and saying we had their cars towed, and that's not the case. And so I understand that. I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. We do have a motion and second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That was 8-1, Commissioner Tillman. Thank you. All right. That concludes our business for this meeting. And does anyone need a comfort break? Okay. We'll take a comfort break till 6:05, and we'll convene our regular meeting. This commission meeting is hereby adjourned.
Yep, that's absolutely right. Well, thank y'all for being up here. And to answer your question, the last one, it was my son. He was up here killing time while I was working. He wasn't advocating. Not yet. Thank you.
Let's see.
What you got?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Macon-Bibb County Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, May the 3rd, and the time is now 6:06. I'd like to officially welcome you here to our meeting, and we'll begin our meeting like we always do. We want to begin our meeting calling this to order, as well as a prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight, we're honored to have Pastor Sarah Pugh Montgomery, the senior pastor at Centenary Methodist Church, to lead us in our prayer. So those of you who can and will, please stand and bow your head, and they'll be followed by the pledge.
Let us pray together. Holy God, the one who created each of us and who breathed into us the breath of life, we come today and we ask your blessings for for the people who have been called to lead the community in which we live and work and play. Help them as leaders to not ask first, how do we fix this, but rather, what do we need to learn? And how might we need to change? And to whom do we need to listen? Grant that they and all of us here will be able to have the wisdom and the courage to know and to do what is right and good and true, even if it's hard. And may they and all of us here speak out when it is time to speak out, and to listen patiently and receptively when it is time to listen. May they and all of us here always be guided by the spirit of community, by the spirit and justice, and by the spirit of love. We pray together with joy, with honor, and with being able to thank you for all that you give to us. Amen.
Commissioners, as we discussed at our previous committee of the whole meeting, we're going to go ahead and move with items approval of minutes as well as a presentation, which is a proclamation, and then we'll entertain a motion to go into executive session after that, and then we'll reconvene for the rest of our business. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion to approval of minutes from March the 15th, 2022, regular commission meeting. Can I get a motion to approve? A motion by Commissioner Bronson. Can we get a second? Second by Commissioner Wynn. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item is going to be a presentation. This is a presentation and proclamation declaring May as Mental Health Awareness Month. Proclamation, Office of the Mayor, Macon-Bibb County, Georgia. Whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being, and whereas all Americans experience times of difficulty and stress in their lives, and whereas prevention is an effective way to reduce the burden of mental illnesses, and whereas there's a strong body of research that supports specific tools that all Americans can use to better handle challenges and protect health and well-being. And whereas mental illness are real and prevalent in our nation. And whereas with early treatment, those individuals with mental illnesses can recover and lead a full, productive life. And whereas each business, school, government agency, healthcare provider, organization, and citizens share the burden of mental illness and has a responsibility to promote mental wellness and support prevention efforts. Now, therefore, I, Lester M. Miller, do hereby proclaim May 2022 as Mental Health Awareness Month in Macon-Bibb County, and I urge all citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and school in Macon-Bibb County to commit and recommit to community to increasing awareness and understanding of mental health, the steps of our citizens can take to protect their mental health, and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental illnesses in all ages and stages. In witness whereof, I have hereto set my hand and caused the seal of the consolidated government to be affixed this first day of May 2022, signed Lester M. Miller, Mayor, Macon-Bibb County. At this time, I'll move on to the executive session. This is a consideration of a record made exempt from public inspection or disclosure pursuant to Open Records Act, where consideration could not be reasonably occur without disclosure of exempt materials in an open meeting. Discussion and consultation with the county attorney or other legal counsel to discuss pending or potential litigation, settlement claims, administrative proceedings, or other judicial actions, including personnel, and all those allowed by law. At this time, I entertain a motion to go into executive session for those purposes. Motion by Commissioner Lucas, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Clark. Any discussion regarding going into executive session?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, I don't know one person that's out here that came to speak tonight, but I do know that we as commissioners have stayed here as late as 9 p.m. And if these folks have come to speak before we go into executive session, I think we ought to allow these folks their 5 minutes to speak. I don't know how long our executive session is going to last, but I just don't think it's fair for us to go in executive session and these folks are out here to speak for 5 minutes on issues that we may or may not be discussing. I don't know. I don't know one person that's called me and said they want to speak, but I do know and see people out there. And so I would be interested if those folks have signed up to speak and why we would not allow them to speak before we go into executive session.
Thank you, Commissioner Tillman. At this time, no one has signed up to speak. And also, there's no one signed up to speak on agenda items at this time. Public comments on non-agenda items would normally happen after our executive section, so we're exactly where we need to be. So this time we have a motion and a second. If there's no further questions regarding going into executive session, I'll take a vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay. We're now in executive session until further notice. All right, can I get a motion to come out of executive session? Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Clark, second by Commissioner Bronson. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, no. We're now in executive session. Was that you, Commissioner Bronson? All right, we're going to get back into the agenda. We have a consent agenda. It's the only remaining item that we have. And what are the numbers on that, please? A motion to approve the consent agenda items A through K as previously voted on committee of the whole. Can I get a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Wink. We have a second. Second by Commissioner Bronson. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and is approved in its entirety. We have no items, additional items on the agenda, and no one is asked to speak on agenda or non-agenda items. This meeting is hereby adjourned.